Alright, sorry about that, everybody. Turns out my computer just 100% froze. I'm going in to find out where it froze at. Whoa. Give me a second. Can't even get it to pop up on my phone and tell me where we're at and we lost. Okay, so it says here we were here. Alright. I apologize about that, everybody. I've been having problems with my computer like crazy. After this episode, I plan on 100% switching over to Linux. Hopefully it will work this time. Yeah, sorry. So we're back in. What I'm saying is, people like Monero because of its atomability with Bitcoin and its true privacy. And there's a lot of stuff here for you to go through if you actually really enjoyed this. This has quite a bit for you to go through, and we're going to go through some of this as well. Here again, you can contribute while Monero Research Labs, and that's another thing a lot of people like about Monero is people still contribute. Like the research lab for Monero does a lot of stuff, but tons of people still contribute into the code, project, all sorts of stuff. And while it's a lot more difficult to really contribute for Bitcoin in that manner, you kind of just have to do it on your own and propagate slowly. Oh. Yeah. That makes sense. So, you guys are noticing I'm just now noticing my character model. So you're seeing you're actually seeing a little bit into this setup. Alright. So sorry, again, this is why we had to put a pause on the gaming streams. Basically, my input is delayed by 30 seconds or so, and when I type, it's even worse. Oh. There we go. See if that helps any. I have my fans on, I have everything on. Okay. Alright. Sorry, I gotta get my bearings back. So, one of the things that we have here is an FAQ. I'm gonna give as much, I guess, diveable content for you after the episode. This is literally just an FAQ. It's been broken down to simple, easy to digest information. Like, we started off at what's the technical word? What is the meaning of the technical word? So, they're saying, like, anytime you go through here, they'll have words like this. There's an entire dictionary to help you out. So, there's all sorts of stuff in here that we can look at. Like, we were just seeing how can I contribute. Does Monero have a block size limit? Is Monero a mixer or mixing service? Is Monero's privacy differ from other coins? If I click this, it should drop us down. No, Monero is a completely non-interactive, non-custodial, automatic process to create private transactions. By contrast, for mixing services, users opt in to participate. So, huge difference there, right? And then we got here the user guides. This is going to be everything on how to actually use Monero. You see here, it's the general, the mining, the backup, the nodes, the recovery, the wallets, hardware, being anonymous, all that stuff. Everything you need there is right here. It's definitely going to get you started. Now, I can't say this enough, but this is the dev guide. So, I mean, you never know, right? If any of this stuff seems kind of cool, or if say you're getting your wallet and your miner and your node and all this stuff, and it kind of seems easy or whatever, then maybe you might be just right for the developer side. Their developer side is actually quite simple. Monero back in like 2017 was being known for, like you see here, having the most possible ways of usage amongst a variety of platforms, and that's huge. because a lot of places are kind of stricken down to like C++, Python, Java, and maybe some Rust. No. Alright, so last week we talked about this article here. Hold on. Come on. No. Give me the QR. Give me the key. Thank you. So last week we used Johnny Law's articles about snorkeling in the XML waters. And we talked about this. We also then kind of sort of covered the dynamic block size setup with this article. It helps explain that in a reasonable way to explain it. So that's going to be what we really need to talk about. So how Monero solved the block size problem that plagues Bitcoin. And we've got a little diagram here. 2 blocks moving in different directions. Where the middle is kind of set. Alright, so it is highly recommended that readers have read blah 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 blah, all this other stuff. Okay, cool. Whenever individuals discuss problems on with blockchain, the first words that pop out be scaling. It's not a secret that blockchains don't scale well, unless people don't know why. The truth is, scaling is actually an umbrella term that covers 2 different categories: protocol support and technological support at any given point in time. In this article, we're going to focus on protocol support. Is basically a measure of how many transactions the protocol can handle at any given time. Bitcoin has a block size limit, which means once enough transactions are included in a block, any additional transactions will have to wait in line for the next block. A helpful analogy would be to be thinking of a train, or a train pulls up the station, goes file in line. Once the train is full, it moves, everyone has left outside waiting for the next one. Bitcoin uses fees to determine who gets on the block or not. Jumping back to the train analogy, one can imagine one potential passenger is about to be left behind, offers the train engineer $5 to get him on a seat. Other passengers follow suit, and eventually this is a bidding war to see who gets in which seat. It's up to the driver to decide which person, the miner, basically, the miner in the node, working together to make that happen. In this analogy, miners and train are the train drivers. They can include whatever transactions they want in the block. They would generally choose those that have the highest paid fees. Alternatively, if the blocks are not very full, people have no incentive to pay high fees because there are plenty of free seats. In the height of 2017 Bitcoin boom, Bitcoin was flooded with transactions, and the fees skyrocketed for those who that wanted to be included in the next block, or any near future block for that matter. Those who were unwilling to pay high fees saw their transactions pushed back to hours, days, or even drop out of the queue altogether. And that's not completely true, they got put into the meme pool. This is a hollowing insight into how Bitcoin would fare if the OFT talked about mass adoption. I hate when people use anagrams. It's like, everybody knows all these anagrams. So Monero foresaw this and wanted to do something different. Monero developers implemented the dynamic block size. Basically, Monero has a block size cap, but it's a soft cap. When the line of waiting transactions gets too long, the miners can increase the size of the blocks with the air train analogy. You can imagine more train calls to fit the extra passengers. After the queue is empty, though, they shrink back down. There was another way to do this where it's rubber band block or something like that, where if you go larger today, you have to go smaller later, stuff like that, where you keep a average block size versus actual block size. And this is actually a neat idea. It seems reasonable to ask why Monero is the only cryptocurrency to implement this. Why not add it to Bitcoin as part of its through input issues? It's not possible. There are several reasons why, and we'll do our best to explain. Miners' best interest is to have large blocks. With large blocks, they can fit more transactions, they make more money off the fees, as well as the block rewards, blah, 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 right? This potential leads to spam attacks, where someone needs many small transactions with small fees to bloat the chain. Miners would just raise the block size included and get all the money. no matter how small. This would lead to consistently large blocks with little economic benefit. Bitcoin solves this by artificially restricting the block size, therefore generating a fee market. Spam attackers would have to outpay the others in order to get in. So how can Monero have dynamic block sizes to avoid spam attacks? The answer is clever. It's a penalty on the block reward is introduced when the block is bigger than normal. When the miner wants to increase the block size, the reward they get from finding that block will be less than finding a regular block. So they will only receive the block size. They will only increase block size when the paid transaction fees of the users outweigh the lost portion of the block reward. For example, if the miner would lose half of Monero, and the sum of the paid transactions was 0.4 instead of 0.5, it'd be a net loss if they were to raise the size, so they wouldn't go do it. Conversely, total transaction fees added up to 0.7, and there would be a net gain of 0.2, so then they definitely would. Dynamic blocks allow the network to grow organically, without artificial restriction of the block size to meet markets, blah, 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 blah. So, nice. That's a pretty simple way to explain it, right? Sure, you're allowed to raise a block, you get penalized, your fees, if they cover, therefore you can do. If not, don't. Pretty simple. Now, there is a whole bunch more specs and information that we can get in, but then we're going to kind of just preview some of these. So, Monero has been live since April 18th, 2014. It had no pre-mine, no insta-mine, and no ICOs, no tokens. Monero had no pre-mine or of any kind, did not sell any tokens or pre-sell of any kind. Proof of work. It's Kryptonite. Version 0 was on block height 0. Version 1 was at this block. Next one at this one. Version 3 at this one. RandomX version 0 at this point. Cool. Target difficulty retarget. Every block based on the last 720 blocks, excluding 20% of the timestamp outliers. Now, Johnny Law was describing that as around 100, because that's the average. Like, they have a huge number, but there's a 24-hour limit. So, block time, about 2 minutes. May change in the future as long as the emission curve is presented. So, there's an emissions curve that ensures the block time allowance, or doesn't go too crazy. So the block reward, smoothly decreasing the subject to penalties for blocks greater than the median size of the last 100 blocks. And 0.6 Monero as of June 2023 for the current reward check for the Coinbase transaction of the latest block. Block size, dynamic, maximum 2 times the median size on the last 100 blocks, about 50 kilobytes on average. Current block size chain pruned down to about 95 gigabytes. Full node 230 gigabytes. Emission curve, the main emission is to produce about 18 million coins by May 2022. As of June 2023, the emission is about 3x mark per 10 minutes, and the tail emission, it kicked in after the main emission is done, and it will produce about 0.6 Monero per 2 minute block. This translates to about 1% inflation over time, and again, per 2 minute block. That's kind of important because it messes with stuff as the blocks move around in time. The max supply, about 18 million Monero, plus the additionals per 2 minutes. Technically infinite, but practically deflationary if accounted for lost coins. And that's because we covered before. There's a lot of reorg. There's a lot of strangeness gone in there. The visibility, Monero is divisible by 12 digits, so it goes down to 12 units. Sender privacy has ring signatures, 15 or 16 with 15 decoys, and then insurance is the probabilistic thing, probable deniability, and that's what all this is about. Recipient privacy, self-address, and assurance can be strong. Bring confidential transactions for about privacy, IP privacy through Dandelion, and a couple other things here they have going on. and then wallet communication for Tor and I2P, which are secure privacy networks. There you go. All right. Can't believe we got that far, but we got that far. Here we goes. But yeah, that's is Monero. Okay, so today we really wanted to get into the history of Monero. We wanted to get into all the different things that really are Monero, while then giving you this idea of how its block really works. So the last episode and this episode are somewhat entwined. Sure. The snorkeling talked about the dynamic block size, which helps keeps systems safe from attackers, but also, the whole thing we discovered today, the fact that it's actually dynamic and it's using 100 block average based on its median size. So Monero is quite complex, with multiple parts to it and its community being a huge part of its everything. So in the next episode, we'll dive a little bit more deeper into these waters and actually see what else Monero has to offer, because you don't really know until you find out. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Try it again.
Yo, did you think you know? Did you think you hold? Did you think something new? That's the goal, to see from a new degree and get the change your mind needs to find something new. Life suddenly is easy for many, but when a wall appears, sometimes up is all you see. So let 3D guide to the side, yo, where there's a door though. Just be careful on your way out, for the first step is a do-si-do. A little bit Linus with something different, it's almost like he's something else. And regardless of maybe, perhaps it was that missing piece you was needing. Maybe it was that simple message you was searching. Definitely it's just in different time for defraying a mental mind, say separating us from our own mental mind tank. Boom goes the blast of thought. Boom goes the last spark with part. Boom goes the mental mind tank. Don't your perspective hit on the way out. Don't let your directive stop you when you doubt. Don't let the dire detection stop you from being getting excited, so the photons are delighted. Don't hesitate so we can mine up the hash rate. Let me surmise the tides to make the rate and reduce the face while we mine our major banks. Crypto technology like cryptographic money, while hashing your life into a set of QRs. It doesn't matter, cause this was 3D changes perspectives. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a new roll of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Of perspective. Thank you for joining the show. Please return next time for a brand new perspective. Thank you for joining the show.